back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Morgan. I'm 19 years old.
And I'm Emily, I'm 16.
We are sisters, and today we want to talk a little bit about something called lipedema.
So chances are you probably don't know what lipedema is. You may have heard of it, but you probably don't know a lot about it, which is very common here. However, 11% of women are affected by it. Now, we are by no means medical professionals or experts on lipedema. However, since it has affected us both, we want to just take this time to spread our stories with it and hopefully shed some light to the many women who are affected by it and have no idea.
So, what is lipedema? Basically, it's a fat cell disease in which the affected fat is not only stubborn, like you hear, stubborn fat, it's actually completely immune to diet and exercise.
It's impossible to get rid of, completely.
So the fat basically swells because your vessels inside of the lipedema fat are unable to remove and drain excess fluid from the tissue. So this basically causes the fat or the tissue to swell, making it most commonly quite out of proportion to the rest of the body. So you'll see it most commonly in legs. They call it tree trunk legs or something like that. Basically where the legs and ankles are they look very swollen and out of proportion.
It's like that ankle look kind of.
Yeah, and while it can affect the rest of the body, the legs are definitely most common. Now, as you can imagine, the quality of life for lipedema patients often suffers greatly, both physically, obviously, but also emotionally, because this disease is very often dismissed as just simple obesity, as it was in both of our cases for quite some time. So anyway, a little backstory. Emily and I both struggled with our weight for what seems to be a lifetime, but really it was probably since early grade school or so. And it wasn't until about 2 years ago, I was 17, she was 15, we really hit our lowest of lows. Our health had completely spiraled out of control. I found myself at 286 pounds. Her high weight was 203 pounds. And at that time, we decided that it was do or die. It was time to make some changes. As people do when they're trying to lose weight or get healthy, we changed our eating habits completely, and we started working out together as well. In the past year, with these changes, as well as from the help of vertical sleeve gastrectomy surgery, I've been able to lose 101 pounds to date.
Yay!
And I currently sit right around 185 pounds.
In the same amount of time that Morgan lost the 101 pounds, I lost 30 pounds. However, I noticed that it was only coming out of my torso, kind of like my stomach and face area. But it wasn't until we took our updated measurements that I realized that something was really...
This is about 7 months out.
Yeah, 7 months out, but something was really not right with me. We took measurements in the very beginning, we had all of them written down, but when we went to take our updated ones, we went to measure our thighs. And Morgan actually had lost 10 inches off of each thigh, which we thought just was crazy. So I went second, and I thought we made a mistake at first, but my thighs had grown by half an inch after eating healthy and exercising for a full 7 months.
We had been completely dedicated. She was working harder than I was. To see me, just to compare thighs, something as simple as thighs. Of course, we took measurements for all of our bodies, but to see that in our legs, we knew that I had lost more weight, but 10 inches off of my thigh, whereas hers actually grew. To have no results was, I mean, it was very, it was a sad situation. It was kind of awkward to have to compare each other.
And in that time, I mean, when I measured myself at the very beginning, I was 198 pounds. And when my thighs grew half an inch, I was 172. So you can kind of see how much weight I did lose.
She had lost weight, but her thighs had grown. So it just doesn't add up.
It was really odd.
Yeah.
So that day that we measured ourselves, I came home to my mom and I told her what had happened. So she started to do some research on the computer, and we were just talking about it, and we kind of remembered it brought attention to us that I had this pain in my legs since about puberty, since about 11 years old, as well as stretch marks. Me and Morgan both got stretch marks super young and we really weren't even that overweight.
Yeah. And this pain that Emily's talking about, though, was she would always complain about, like, her legs would literally swell and they would be, like, painful to the touch. And so I remember her, just like in our yearly doctor's appointments, like pediatrician appointments and stuff, there must have been 3 or 4 doctors that you consulted with about the pain, or that mom did for you. And all of them just kind of dismissed it. Like, it was kind of like, okay, it wasn't severe enough to be like, to go much deeper into it. They just really couldn't connect the dots. You brought up the stretch marks, and it still wasn't anything that really was like, aha. So she was living, though, with this pain, and it was kind of just like her normal.
But when we found that my legs grew, we kind of connected the dots, and
it was kind of like a, I wonder if there's a correlation with that. Now, the stretch marks were something, like I said, that we actually both dealt with for quite some time. I probably had a little bit worse of a case as far as stretch mark goes. We both had a very abnormal, like, experience with them. By the time that I entered middle school, and same goes for Emily, like I said, though mine was a little bit worse, I was covered in red, almost purplish stretch marks. I actually stopped playing volleyball because I was too, like, embarrassed to wear the uniforms because they were sleeveless and I had these stretch marks.
She would get new stretch marks in one area, and I swear, like, a month later I would get the same. It was like in order.
Yeah,
like
it was.
So
there was certain
strange.
specific areas of the body, I guess, just as we grew. I don't really know what, but that was something that we both experienced really horribly, and that definitely took its toll on our self-esteem and such. With the stretch marks, though, also came sort of like the texture of our skin. The quality of our skin is not very elastic whatsoever. My skin now, especially after having lost 100 pounds, I have so much loose skin. It's very, like, crepey, kind of, almost like my grandma's skin is. That's the best way I can explain it. Very thin, like, and just not the best quality skin. Anyways, back to Emily's kind of story. It was when we were finally able to sort of connect all these dots that my mom started her own research on these symptoms that Emily had dealt with. And it led her to a disease called lipedema, as well as the closest, like, specialist in our area, Southern California, Dr. David Amron. So I want to let Em explain a little bit of kind of what happened after we found Dr. Amron and stuff.
Right after my mom found what lipedema was, she came to me with a video and I watched it, and everything made so much sense. I couldn't believe that I'd never heard of it before because it matched perfectly with all my symptoms. So I'm pretty sure it was either the next day or a couple days after we found out what it was, we made an appointment with Dr. Amron. So this was in November of 2015. When I first met with Dr. Amron. It was the first consultation. He spent about, like, 2 hours with us, and then afterwards he talked to us about, like, what we could do to help either cure it, just help with the pain. And there are things that help with the pain and the symptoms. However, the only cure for lipedema is actually liposuction. It's a certain type of liposuction. It's limb sparing.
It's the only cure. It's literally going into the body, removing the disease entirely. And while she was having pain, she was still, you know, early stages of lipedema. I think stage 2 or something, or stage 1 or something like that.
I would say stage 1.
But the thing with lipedema is the reason why he suggested to go ahead with this procedure, if we could at all possibly do that, is because down the line, lipedema progresses over time. So if she did not have it treated, she would eventually, the pain would get worse, it would become more so, her legs and affected areas would continue
Most
growing.
people that do have lipedema, it starts off as a cosmetic concern. It's more just the disproportions. But since I was already having pain, which usually doesn't come until later down the line, he said for sure the liposuction procedure was the best thing to do right now because it can cause immobility.
Yeah, lipedema can actually lead to people's legs or body parts, limbs mainly, being so largely out of proportion, so heavy and weighed down that they literally can't walk anymore. But obviously, for my 16-year-old sister, it's like my parents wanted to, of course, prevent that at all costs as soon as possible because she was having pain as it was, and no 16-year-old should have to deal with that. So this past May of 2016, Emily had 2 separate procedures to cover all of these areas with Dr. Amron. It was her calves, arms, ankles, and thighs. And she's currently going through like manual lymphatic drainage therapy, MLD therapy, and however, though, she won't see the full results until about a year post-op, so it's quite the process. Yeah. But she's already relieved of the pain and is definitely seeing results. We'll insert a like before and during picture here. To finish off though, I briefly wanted to get into my story and how I tie into this and how lipedema has affected me personally more than just kind of watching my sister go through it. As some of you guys will know if you've been following my journey for a while, at the start of my weight loss journey, I knew that in the future, once I had gotten to goal weight, that cosmetic skin removal surgeries is something that I probably would want to look into, especially considering the quality of my skin elasticity. However, in watching Emily be diagnosed with lipedema, you know, I never had the largely out of proportion legs as she did, but watching her be diagnosed, as well as probably about 6 months ago, I noticed that while the rest of my body was continuing to shrink as I lost weight, my arms seemed to just have some pretty stubborn fat that did not want to make its exit like the rest of the fat did. I train my arms every time I work out, and I know I got little baby muscles under there. I can feel them coming in, and I really am working hard to tone my arms, but I just stopped seeing results, to be honest. And so Dr. Amron was able to do an exam on my arms, and basically what he said was that he does believe that it could be lipedema. From feeling the arms, it's very similar to Emily's, the texture of it. We've always joked it's like beads, like nodules. But he said that it is very similar to that of someone with lipedema. However, what he said was, regardless of whether this is lipedema or not, you have a layer about that thick of stubborn or lipedema fat weighing down your skin, and it's constantly stretching out your skin more and more and more and more, and causing there to be basically just more damage to the skin. So that being said, he determined that regardless of whether I have lipedema or not, I will greatly benefit from the same treatment that Emily has gone through. Previously, I was told I would need a full brachioplasty, which is scucho, but would include a scar from the elbow to the arm all the way under. I decided that basically for me personally, it would be worth going through with that pretty morbid, to be honest, procedure. However, what Dr. Amron had said is that taking this fat out of my body would prevent more skin damage from happening, and because of this, I may not need all of these procedures. And when he said that, it was kind of like a, oh my God. So with all of that said, I am going to be having the liposuction procedure this coming August 5th, which is literally 8 days away. I am so nervous. I literally can't even handle it. The goal is to give my body enough time to heal and see full results from the liposuction, as well as to continue losing weight so I can get to my goal weight of about probably 35 pounds, 40 more pounds, to basically by the time that 2017 comes and I start looking into actual skin removal procedures. I will still need some, but hopefully the goal is that I won't need as much because I'm taking out this stubborn lipedema fat. So in conclusion, basically the reason that we're filming this video is just to do our part in talking about it. The cure for lipedema, this liposuction procedure, is not covered by most insurances in the US. And because this disease affects so many people to the point of complete immobility, being severely overweight, and thinking that it's just obesity that's the problem, we think that this cure needs to be made more tangible for patients dealing with lipedema. Emily has actually done some interviews, one with People Magazine, Fox, ABC, there's a bunch of stuff. So
Yeah, we'll put that down below along with some other information just on lipedema in general and Dr. Amron and his practice because they've been amazing.
Yeah, for sure. So we hope that sharing this has maybe shed a little bit of light on what lipedema is and how it's affected us in our lives personally. So if you want to follow our stories, we're both going to be making separate videos about our individual journeys and stuff. But on Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube, everything. My usernames are at Morgan Losing.
And I'm at Emily Losing.
We hope you enjoyed this video, guys. We will see you next time.